What? Oh, yeah. Take one.
Well, and then if we need pause,
Oh, yes.
pick it up.
It's louder. Make it sound like 50 people.
I need my glasses, so I'm like. I stopped by Pierce's Farm this morning, freshly picked by Jennifer.
Not me, Jennifer Pierce.
Oh yeah, Jennifer Pierce, sorry. From Pierce Farm.
Fade out. Trying to slowly fade instead of like just slamming it off like I did last time. Okay.
Hey guys, welcome to Talk It Out, Talk It Out, Talk It Out. I'm going to throw out there just because I can. We actually have a live audience today.
Applause.
Woo!
Welcome to our studio audience. Try not to step on the people's feet when you're moving out of the rows.
We're a hot mess.
Yeah.
So I'm going to also throw out there, you'll see that Miss Shaw is not with us today, but she was asked last night to speak at a women's fellowship this morning or today sometime, whatever. I'm not really for sure. And I know that that's her thing. She loves to do that. So she was excited, and that's where she's at this morning. So why she's not with us today, but keep her in your thoughts, and I'm sure everything's just perfectly fine.
And your prayers for great success at their women's conference.
Yes,
today.
thank you.
Well,
Thanks for the verbiage. Thanks for finishing.
Yeah, not a problem. We can finish each other's thoughts.
Absolutely.
And words, when I go like, yeah.
My favorite's when you're going to get the big words out. They're coming.
Yeah, they're coming, my big girl words.
All right, so we do have a special guest today. So
Very
we've got
excited.
Rachael Clark.
I'm so excited to be here, and you didn't tell me that there was going to be a live audience. So I'm like feeling the pressure.
Woo,
Yeah.
it's you
Yeah,
know, it's a hot mess, but so we've got Rachael. We've been super excited. Jen has reached out to her. Honestly, I guess.
Yep.
You know, because
I said, hey.
you are the PR person.
Well, as you
So,
dubbed me.
yeah.
You dubbed me.
That I mean, and you're doing a fine job.
Hey.
Is everything okay?
Audience, if you're looking, if you're looking and I'm sitting at a bad angle, I need you to go, shift it.
Pivot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But anyway, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, I live in Marion, and with my husband and our fur babies, and I am very passionate about working with other women and helping them because of my own journey, my own walk with God, my struggle with using alcohol for a coping mechanism for many years, and how my life has truly changed and how I have been transformed. And that has become my passion now. It's really helping other women and also working with teens. Because teens they're struggling
They
right
are.
now.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know you were doing that.
Even
Yeah.
preteens are struggling.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
Experiencing that right now with.
We've got a program at church working with teens, and because a lot of these teens, the rate of suicide is up, the depression, the anxiety, all of that. And I mean, we all know from growing up, we suppress our emotions, and we're just told you keep going
Right.
and get over it, and it'll be fine. And it really just wreaks havoc.
Yeah, unless you've personally experienced yourself.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's when you can really totally get it. Because, I mean, I went through a major depression in my late teens, early 20s. And it was, I had to convince my family because I would hide it so well.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I have issues. And I still say, I'm not sure how because he's my high school sweetheart, and I'm not for sure how he stuck with me because but he did it. For some reason, he did it, thank goodness. But,
Well, and what I'm learning right now, because, as I've mentioned, I'm going through some stuff. And so what I'm learning is that you can push because we were told. And listen, I am like the last person that does the touchy-feely psychology, blah, blah, blah. Because I was raised as a suck-it-up buttercup kid. And you know what? The way I look at it is my grandparents were sucked out of high school to go to war. So what is my complaint?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a bad thing about social media. we were talking about social media early, so sorry for the tangent, but one of the bad things about it is you've got social media social workers and counselors that are telling kids how they should be handling things, and it's not how they should be handling things. And I think that just is exacerbating the depth of the situation. But I'm learning as I'm walking through the walk that I'm in right now that sometimes you just look for help in any way that you can find it, because there's such a stigma for going for mental health. And when you do that, you get wrong information. And then reversing the wrong practices is very difficult. And sometimes they find very ungodly practices.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and also I will tell you that we are a shiny ball group here. So, yeah. So whatever you've done in your mind thinking that we're going to stay on pace is probably out the window.
Well, I mean, as you can see, Jen wrote out the questions, but she already, didn't bring them.
Right, I did. Well, they're on my phone, but I have my glasses
I'm
on,
hoping
so
I
I
can
can't
just read
read
my
it.
writing.
Yeah.
I'm writing it last night.
But I got us up here in case, look, I've just turned on somebody else's live.
Nice.
So I'm trying
a little bit bored with ours.
Yeah, somebody shoot us a comment so I know that this is working.
But yeah, and so we have questions, but they tend to just pretty much will feed off each other because that's just how we roll. Half
Well,
the time
when
we
I
get
talk-
one question out, that's all we get. Everything else
Exactly.
just rolls.
And when I talked to Rachel the other night at church, I said, she said, I kind of watched the show a couple times and just try to see how you guys do things. And I said, well, what happens is we just kind of let God lead it. So whatever comes. Sometimes it's reverent, sometimes it's irreverent, and we just roll with whatever because God's got a sense of humor, but He's got a message to get out today. So yeah,
absolutely. So so I saw that you've been sober for 4 years.
It'll be 5 years, January 1st.
That's awesome.
Which is really unbelievable. I'm at a place in my life where I truly never thought that I would be, because alcohol was a stronghold for me. That was my coping mechanism. And from the outside looking in, like, my career was good, I had all these good things going for me, but I was really just felt empty and broken on the inside. And alcohol was, my go-to when I was depressed, anxious. I am an introvert, so anytime I was going to be around other people, it was like, okay, I need another couple cocktails. When I was stressed, it was like, okay, I need a drink. On the weekends, on Saturdays, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to at least get till 3:00 before I have a cocktail, things like that. And so it was, building this relationship with the Lord, and I kept kind of getting this feeling of being convicted about it. And I tried. Like, I was like, okay, I'm just going to drink, a couple times a week, or have a couple drinks, or trying to figure it out on my own. And it was very tiring, I guess.
Let me throw in here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally think, Rachel may have a different feeling. We all may have a different feeling. I don't think anybody's going to drink something and die and go to hell because they drank something.
Right.
That is not what this is about.
Right.
No.
This is about if your vice is retail therapy, if your vice is video games, if your vice is
porn,
Yeah.
gambling.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody on this planet was
Food.
born with, gluttony.
Yes.
Give me the peach cobbler when I'm sad.
Yeah, we all have something. And I mean, I always say it. I'm like, I'm not opposed to alcohol or anything, but it was how I was using
Absolutely.
it.
Yes.
And I knew something needed to change. And so, but I was like, I can't ever see my life without alcohol in it. And I even gave up alcohol one time for 21 days of prayer and fasting. I'm like, this is it.
You can do it.
This is it. 21 days of prayer and fasting, and it's going to be done. And
Yeah.
it wasn't. I just went back to where I was. And I would get
So let's celebrate 21 days.
Yeah. And I was
Well, that's what the rest of us do with food.
Yeah, I made it.
We're like, I haven't had meat for 21 days. Let's go get a cheeseburger.
And I would get so frustrated when I would hear other people share stories like, oh my gosh, I went to church and I prayed and God took away, whatever it is I was dealing with. I'm like, why is that not happening for me, And it was really through, I was sitting in church one day and something that Pastor Jason was preaching, and I did not ever go up for prayer. I was the type that I stayed in my seat, and something that he said about giving your struggles over to Jesus, leaving it at the foot of the cross and everything, and something I felt God just like, you go up there, you drop to your knees, and you give it to me, and I'm like,
Whatever.
no thanks, not happening.
But thanks for the tap.
And I'm looking, and I'm looking
I'm shifting.
around.
Sorry.
I'm looking around, and I'm seeing, other people that I know, and I'm like, not happening. And it was like, you keep hearing that, that nudge, like, go. And I'm like, if somebody would have been paying attention, I was probably literally like this. And I'm like, I can't, fine, whatever, So I just go up there and I drop to my knees and I give it over to him, and I'm like, I can't do this on my own. Of course, I wasn't saying this out loud, but it's in my head. I'm just like, God, I can't do this on my own. I've tried. I'm tired. Whatever you want me to do, I'm like, I'll do it. If you are seriously wanting me to change, then I need you to come in and you need to guide me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the fall. It was I believe it was in November. And so it's not like I left and things were like, magically changed.
Right.
But it was then at the end of December, and this is what I love about the Lord, is that his ways are so not what we picture them. And we have to go with those prompts that he's giving us. And I was in a Facebook group and somebody was talking about dry January, and I started reading the comments, and then somebody said something about a 30-day program, and I started following the clues and landed on a 30-day online program about examining your relationship with alcohol. And I knew the moment I landed on it, I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I did. I, paid for it, did it, and I went all in for that time. I'm like, I connected with other people in the group. I shared my story in the group. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this. And then at the end of that 30 days, I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Now what?
Yeah.
And because, of course, they had different programs that you could buy into, and I wasn't feeling led to do that. And I'm like, okay, Lord, you brought me here. What do you want me to do now? Because it's still at this point, I still couldn't see my life without alcohol in it. And it was just, and I heard him, one day at a time. We'll take it one day at a time. And that is what I have been doing now for almost 5 years.
That's awesome.
One day at a time.
Cue the 70s music.
Yeah.
One day at a time, sweet Jesus. That's all I'm asking from
I
you.
can't sing like Jack.
I can't either.
Just go like this.
Yeah. I just do what you don't want it.
Sweet peas and pickles. Yeah.
But so often we are looking at this big picture. And I still never say, I will never drink again, because we don't know what is going to happen in our lives. I still just do it one day at a time.
If I had one more kid, I would have had a bigger problem with alcohol. Just saying.
You make that commitment every day. I make a new commitment every single day. I'm like, okay, you got this. You're going to guide me. And that's what it's all about. Because if I would have been looking at the future of I'm never going to drink again, it would have been too much.
Right. So can I ask, does your husband drink?
He does. But he doesn't use alcohol like I use alcohol. I mean, he can, have a couple beers with the guys.
Mosey has a beer.
Right, But for me, it was my coping mechanism. Yeah. And so that's where that difference lays. And it was different for us even in the beginning. I'm the type of person, I'm private about things to an extent. Once I've made it over a hump, then I'm like, okay, I'll
here comes.
I'm an open book, because if I can help I feel like God put me on this journey, so if I can help other people, I will help them.
Absolutely.
Make me like Rachael. Shut her down.
Yeah, he has a plan for each one of us.
Absolutely.
And so it was different for us, because my husband's when we got together, it was, going out, hanging out in the bars, doing all these things. I had nothing to do with the Lord. I'm like, nope. Dude, I turned my back on you when I was a teenager. Nothing,
My parents made me go to church and
yeah. And so it was So in his eyes, he was kind of like, okay, I'm proud of you for all these changes, but yet what's that going to do to us?
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're growing in a way that he was growing in his own way.
Right.
And so it's been interesting, but he has supported me and he is so proud of me. And he has never made me once feel guilty about it. It's like I like a good mocktail, because what I've learned, it's sometimes the process of making a cocktail.
Especially when you look at it as an art form, that food does that too.
Yes. So he has been very, very supportive, and I'm like, it's working out. It's working out.
Shout out to Dion for being a good support.
He is an amazing support. And I mean, even going through my inner healing journey and all of that, and, going to church, everything, he knows. He's like, that's my thing. That's what I do. I'm there on Thursday nights. I'm there on Sundays. And he's just like, okay.
It's okay to have to separate.
Yeah.
So on Thursday nights, do you celebrate recovery?
Well, I started out at Celebrate Recovery, and it was kind of crazy how that came about, because Celebrate Recovery, I was already 3 years into my journey before I even started going to Celebrate Recovery. And how it ended up coming about was at that 3-year mark, my 3-year anniversary was January 1st, which was a Sunday, so I was in church, happened to tell Pastor Jason, I said, 3 years. I got 3 years. Next thing I know, he has me up on stage.
No, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
you did not.
I was like, wait a minute here.
You have to understand, we have 1,500 people.
Yeah,
in
and
church
so, and I'm like, I get up there and he's like, just say what you told me, you got this, And so I'm like, okay, so I did it. And about a week later, Scotty, who is over Celebrate Recovery.
Scott Bowman.
Yeah,
You guys know Scott Bowman.
Scott Bowman.
Blaine and Zach Bowman's dad.
Yes.
And he called me, and he's like, I would love for you to come to Celebrate Recovery. And I'm like, okay, So I started going, and I kind of struggled with it a little bit. I'm like, 3 years into my journey, am I supposed to be here? But like every time I tried to pull away,
something pulled you right back in.
Something pulled me right back in. And now I know, because it was almost a year of going, that we started The Landing, which is a version of Celebrate Recovery for teens. And I didn't even know that was a thing. And I was at home one day, and this is one of those things, God put something, download. And I started searching, I pulled up, I'm like, is there a Celebrate Recovery for teens? And because Celebrate Recovery is not just drugs, alcohol,
Right.
It is, if you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with hurt, unforgiveness, whatever it is, any hurt, habit, hang up, that's what it's for.
Somebody explained that to me not too long ago, and I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And I think it was Tina Porter, and I was really glad she did. No, it wasn't. It was Christina. It was either Christina or Daisy, or I don't know, one of those three. One of those three
Somebody
ladies.
explain
She
it.
was mom. Yeah. Well, I was there
Fred.
sobbing one day, and there was whoever was talking to me was like, "Celebrate Recovery is for recovering your mess. It doesn't matter
Yes.
what your mess is."
Exactly. But a lot of people think it's
Right.
just
Just
alcohol.
Right.
So I searching online, and The Landing gets brought up, and I was like, oh my gosh. So Scotty, if you know him, at church on Sundays, you can't talk to the man. I mean, he's pulled in 20 different directions. So I'm going to church that Sunday. I'm like, okay, Lord, if I'm supposed to talk to Scotty about this, you are going to give me the opportunity to do this. And if not, then I'll just kind of play it by ear. I walked into church, and there he is, alone, standing in front of the bookstore by himself.
With lights on it,
Yeah,
and the
really?
angels are going.
Yeah, that's how I felt. And
Robert Downey Jr. was standing, or not Jr. Robert Downey was standing behind him. I do that every time I hear
Robert,
Jr.
Robert, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I stopped, and I was like, oh my gosh. And a part of me was just like, go different direction. I don't know what to do. So
He didn't see me.
yeah. So I went up to him, and I'm like, okay, I gotta talk to you. And so I was like, God gave me this download. I looked this up. I feel I'm being called to do this in some way, shape, or form. Next thing you know, it's like, yeah, Rachel, this is your baby.
Oh,
Take
wow.
it and run with it.
That's
and
awesome.
I was just like, oh my gosh, Lord, what are you
What
doing?
have I done?
I am not equipped for that. I am not, but
God is not equipped to
I know. That's what I kept telling myself. And so I was like, all right, we're going to do this thing. And it's the same thing that it's for teens. It's not for, just the drug, alcohol, whatever, but there are so many teens that are dealing with depression, anxiety, cutting themselves.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now we're just in the process of, we started it in April, but it really it's a learning process.
Mm-hmm.
And the most important thing I have found is building a relationship with these teens.
Yep.
And giving
Some of them, that's really all they
Want.
That's all they want.
That's all they want.
Need. Yeah.
And to be able to talk about things. And I'm like, there have been times where I'm like, Lord, why did you call me to this? I don't get it. Because there are times I'm like, I don't know if this is working. I don't know. And it's like, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. And then when you have a breakthrough, when you have a team that opens up or whatever,
That's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
it's all worth it. It's all worth it.
Same platform here, because I'll go the same way, because sometimes I'll just get to where I'm like, okay, we're just, wasting time, but then something
Right.
pulls me back in every single time,
I know.
Or, and here you are. Like,
Yeah.
it's just different people. It's meant to be. Why?
Yes.
I don't know. But it just is.
Well, you know what? That's probably Scott Bowman. We know pre-church Scott Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if you guys, you don't know him at all? Carterville audience member, sorry. And you don't know Blaine and Zach? Okay. But Scott, so I remember pre-church Scott, and you guys are never going to guess who came and introduced themselves to me Thursday night. And I stood there like I didn't know who he was. I didn't recognize him. John Beasley.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's been going, a year and a half? I think, something like that.
Yeah.
But I was just like, he was like, it's John. And I'm like, hey, John.
I'm
He goes,
Jen.
Yeah, it's Jen. He goes, I know who you are, John Beasley. I'm like, shut the front door. I had no idea that it was him. He looks like a completely different person.
And
He's doing really well.
And the thing about, with working with the teens and stuff like that is just making sure that they know that they have this safe place to talk about
Right.
things, and that, we just stress. It's just, same thing with CR. It's like when you come here, when you're talking, we don't, it's not shared with anybody
No
else.
judging.
Yeah, no
Like, just
judging.
get
The
it
only
out.
time, and I'm like, the only time I'm going to take anything you say out of this room is if you are threatening to harm yourself or someone else. With CR, it's all about anonymity. It's not. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, this person goes there, this person no, because
Right.
it's, a lot of people, it's a very private thing.
Right.
But I just.
Oh, to be clear, I'm not sharing names from Celebrity
Oh,
Recovery.
no.
We were
I
out there
know.
for a funeral.
Yeah. No.
Totally different.
Yeah,
Disclaimer.
different disclaimer there.
Yeah.
You just ran into somebody that you hadn't seen for a while.
Yeah, and he was like, I've been
Yeah.
coming here for a year and a half. And
Yeah.
Celebrity Recovery, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, oh my gosh.
So it's
It was
one
a
of,
funeral.
yeah. So it's one of those things that it's just a truly amazing experience, and knowing that a lot of these teens and even adults, when we're going through something, we think that we are alone.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
I know.
I think the enemy does that. Puts
Yes.
it in your mind that you're the only one that's ever been through it. You're the only person that's ever dealt with this. Your friends are never going to understand. All of the things that make you feel more and more alone. I think
Yeah.
he comes at us with that really bad.
And the thing is with me, it's like the not drinking was one thing, but that was just the first step, because then that's when my inner healing journey started. Because I'd already been, on my walk for a couple years with the Lord, and I'd read my devotional every morning and all of this stuff. But what I had learned is that I had, just from dealing with everything I did growing up, and my own suicide attempt, because dealing with the depression and all that, is that I built, and we all often do, built walls around myself. And so it's like I was reading God's word, but it was not getting into my heart.
Right.
And so as I went on this inner healing journey, then his word just started taking on a whole new meaning. And it's an ongoing thing. And that's what I always tell people. I'm like, you get excited in the beginning and you're like, oh man, I'm feeling a little bit better. But that's just like the first layer of that onion that's getting peeled back. And it goes deeper and deeper. And I'm still, in the process because something will trigger me. And that's the most important thing is that we need to become aware.
Right.
So if I get triggered by something, it's like, all right, Lord, why am I being triggered by this? What is some healing that I need to do around this? And because, like we talked earlier, we suppress these emotions, and then all of a sudden, you're going on along in life, and then somebody does the littlest thing, and you blow up.
Right.
And it's
like 15 years worth of stuff. You just puke it all over.
Yeah. And you're like, what? Why? And people are like, oh, what? Girl.
Yeah. Girl, tap your face.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Crazy. And so that's why, it's all these suppressed emotions. And so it's like going through this process. I mean, I've been going through this process now for over 4.5 years.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions is where in your journey did you begin your journey? Because we'll talk about the tapping. We'll talk about your recovery from anxiety and depression. What point in your journey because I'm sure that you used alcohol as a coping mechanism for anxiety and depression.
Oh, yes.
So what part when in your journey did the tapping and the life coaching and all that come into play?
Well, after I was already familiar with EFT tapping because before I truly started my journey, so
let's say what EFT is, first of all, because I'm I hate acronyms.
Yeah, emotional freedom technique is what they call it.
I had to Google it.
Yeah. So I was familiar with EFT because I was dealing with migraines a lot. I always had a headache. Like, it never went away. I lived off of ibuprofen, and I was searching. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do something. And because the doctors, it was like, tried this medication, but nothing was ever really helping. And I discovered EFT tapping and bought the books, and I'm kind of like, I don't really get this, don't really understand it, how is this going to help me? I was trying, but a lot of times when you're trying to do something on your own, it's not really cutting it.
I need somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you feel like a nut when you first start that, and you're thinking
you feel awkward. I'm like, how am I supposed to do this? But it's one of those things that kept coming back to me. So then I kind of started my health journey and was doing, got into different coaching programs to help me build a business and things like that. And it was like, some of these coaches were using like EFT tapping. I'm like, why does this keep coming back? So then after I started, with the no drinking and all that stuff, then I landed into this like 5-day free program that ended up being about EFT tapping. I'm like, oh my gosh, what, So,
but see, why does he do that to you? He makes it clear as a bell. He smacks you in the face with it. I need him to write it on a 2x4, swing it at me like a ball bat, and let me know what it is he's trying to do, because I'm not getting it.
Because sometimes though, we kind of hold ourselves back.
Right.
We ignore
Exactly.
the signs.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, okay, so I bought this whole coaching program around EFT tapping and was going through it. And I'm like, okay, there's something to this. And I'm noticing, some different changes. But as I started progressing in that, that's when I'm like, oh my God, this is it. So I got certified for a life coach and through EFT tapping. And I was like, okay, I'm following the crumbs of do this, do that kind of thing. But all of this was also continuing to help me on my journey. But then I was like, okay, I love the EFT tapping and how it really helps to release these emotions because, our body is energy, and when we're suppressing our emotions, then it just gets stuck in us. And then it can come out in different forms, in anxiety, depression, health issues, body aches, different things like that. So I'm like, okay, this is good. But there was like a piece that was missing that I couldn't figure out for quite a while. And then I was like, felt the Lord just telling me at one point, he's like, you need to put me first. I wasn't really putting him first in all areas of my life and his word. And that's when like things just slowly started coming together. It was like, okay, the EFT tapping is good, helps so many people, but adding in like his word and using it in prayer, and yes, using it to deal with whatever it is we're dealing with, but then standing firm on his word.
Mm-hmm.
That is where my true transformation started to take place, because it wasn't with EFT tapping. Yes, there's different tapping points that you tap on, and you're working through whatever it is that you're struggling with. But then a lot of times as you feel a release, then it's about putting in positive affirmations, which is fine. But the difference is with using his word, I'm like, this is God's word.
Right.
This is what he says. It's not me trying to be like, I am confident, I am courageous, I am this, I am that, because that part of our brain is like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I don't care how much work you do.
Yeah.
No, you're not. But it's like, this is what God says.
Well, and our words are words. That's not to mean that they're not powerful. They're very
Right.
powerful.
Yes.
But our words are words, and his word is alive.
Yes.
And it is meant to, it does something different in you when you speak his word
Mhm.
over your own words. It speaks to your soul.
Yes.
And when you say it aloud, your ears hear it.
Mhm.
So you can read it and take it in through your eyes, like the different kinds of learning, but you can also hear it.
Mhm.
When you speak it, your ears hear it, and they don't care whose mouth is saying it.
Right.
But it's when it's coming out of your own voice and going into your ears and you're hearing it audibly, but it's his words.
Mhm.
It just seems to make such a huge difference.
And one thing that I have learned through all this, it's like, so we hold all this stuff inside and not truly give it over to the Lord. And I'm like, he knows anyway,
Right.
like what is going on. And we need to open up and give it to him. And if I am mad, whatever it is, I'm like, okay, Lord, this is what I got going on. And I don't understand why this is happening. And I don't understand what your plan is for it.
There you go.
But there you go. I'm telling you what is going on.
You have those sassy attitude conversations
I do.
too.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Because-
guess, yeah, sassy God talk.
Yeah. I don't like hold it back. I just like let it flow. And I was like, I don't know why you're doing this. I don't understand it. And why is this not happening? And then as I work through it, it's like, it makes a difference. And it's like, okay, we bring ourselves back down a little bit. And I turn to his word and what he says. And that has made such a huge difference in my life. And one thing that has been so valuable to me during this process is learning to forgive myself.
That's hard.
Because, and forgiveness is hard,
Absolutely.
but then learning to forgive ourselves.
Even harder.
But I had to realize that the person I was when certain things were going on in my life and the things that I did in my life that I'm not proud of, it's like I was a different person then.
Mm-hmm.
My mindset was different, because what happens is we take where we're at now and be like, I would never do that.
Right.
Why did I do that? That was so stupid. And it's like, no, I was a different person then. I did not have him in my life. I was trying to figure everything out for myself. And so it's like, really forgive myself for all of that.
Well, I had to start telling myself, God forgives me. I know he forgives me.
Mm-hmm.
He throws that, he doesn't even remember it. He
Mhm.
forgives me so hard. And why is my opinion of myself more important than God's opinion?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to constantly repeat that to myself. Hey, sis, your thoughts about yourself are not more important than God's.
Mm-hmm.
So when I start digging at myself, it's like, God doesn't say that. I had somebody tell me recently I'm broken. It's like, hey, Jen, God doesn't say I'm broken.
Mm-hmm.
God says I'm healed.
Mhm.
God doesn't tell me that I'm broken. So when church people come to me and tell me that I'm broken, I'm not broken.
No.
God doesn't say that I'm broken. God says that I'm healed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a God thing because that was my response to them. And I'm like, don't do that to people. Don't do that to people. Because it's hard enough for us to forgive ourselves. And then when you get people that come to you, especially when it's church people, and tell you these things, and they're good meaning. They're not meaning to be, you know, they're not meaning to be, they're trying to bring something to your attention that you can work on. But it's like, you have to, words are so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's hard to start teaching ourselves to talk. That's one of my challenges right now is more positive self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
But you've reminded me that I don't need to do positive self-talk. I need to remind myself what God says I am.
Exactly.
Sorry to make that about me.
No. It is quite all right. No, because that's a perfect example. Like you said, it's not what you say about you, it's what God says about you. And we are meant to shine our light, but it's very hard to shine our light when we are walking around with all these wounds.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the inner healing is so important. I mean, through all of this. Because I said, we are meant to shine our light for others. And it can be, you know, a struggle sometimes. And, you know, it's like, you got to remind yourself every day, it's a new commitment. You know, He gives us our daily bread. It's daily. So every day, it's like, you know what? Maybe I got off track yesterday, didn't do the best yesterday. Today is a brand new day.
Right.
Lord, guide me in my steps.
And that was a hard acceptance for me too, because, and that's really how this all kind of came about, because Michelle is very godly, very, you know, she has done so much for me over the past couple of years. But we were just sitting there talking, and I basically said, I mean, how is it okay that I do a sin, whatever it may be, and then I'm like, okay, I'm forgiven, but I turn around and do it again. Like, why, like, how is that okay? How are you, and it's still hard for me. I mean, I'm a work in progress trying to learn that.
We're all working.
But you've got to be willing to, as I'm sitting here, because, you know, I want to like speak up and I'm trying not to, but like, you've got to be willing to grow.
Excuse me, that's your job.
You've got to be willing to grow. And it's so funny because I am a trainer at the VA. I work at the VA with Michelle. And we're in the middle of competency season, and we have done so much to help our schedulers be successful, because we want everybody to be successful. And so my strongest word lately has been invest in yourself.
Yes.
Like, invest in yourself. So one of the, I mean, he's been around for a while, and it was just so funny. So shout out TJ. He had, he randomly sent me this message, and he's like, when you're a famous motivational speaker, he's like, I want a t-shirt with your slogan, and invest in yourself. And I was like, hashtag invest in yourself. Like, that's going to be my thing. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm
Look
like,
at me jumping right on your
right?
hashtag.
Yeah. You jump right away, because we're all about that. But I mean, I was just like, how, like, I'm like, me, be a motivational speaker, but I'm like, you know, really, I think that's, I mean, I love listening. I love, you know, I don't know that I have the right verbiage as I'm sitting here talking and just puking crap out right
Well,
now.
but you know what?
But
there
it's
are,
real.
right now we have 4 viewers. Now, our 6.
Yeah, I can't forget that.
Yeah, we got the lions.
Studio audience. But I will say that our numbers are big.
Absolutely.
Way bigger than I thought that they would ever be.
Absolutely.
And this is new. And we have, you know, Jody's Journey is almost 7,000 views at this point. And the one that we
It's
did
still
last
growing.
week was Sarah 2.0, was, I think it's up to like
2.0.
700 or something like that views. So this is reaching people.
Absolutely.
So whether you think you're a motivational speaker or not, like, holy. Yeah. So I'm just going to tell you that you talking down and saying you're not a motivational saying you're not a motivational speaker and a shiny nickel against your hot cup of Jack Squat. So yeah, own that, sister. Hashtag invest in yourself.
Investing, yes.
You can laugh. Do I need a party sign?
And this is how we roll.
Right?
This is how it goes.
I love that. And the thing is, I never thought that I would be at this
Right.
place.
Well, and I'm sitting here and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm admiring you.
Yeah,
I'm
I
admiring you for many reasons, like your makeup, number one.
I know.
Number two.
Well,
And I'm sitting here looking how
package.
cute you look.
Yes, and she's
then
the
you're
perfect
just-
package. And I walked in here
You
this morning.
are.
I'm like,
You
I'm not
really
wearing
are.
makeup today. I'm having a hot flush and big sweat rolling down my face. So I did not go to the makeup trailer this morning. Didn't happen.
But it's in the car waiting for her.
Yeah, no, I brought it in so it
Oh,
didn't
sorry.
melt in the heat. Because it's my drugstore brands in the bag.
But yeah, I mean, you're sitting, like, listening to you. Like, okay, so this is why we do what we do, because you're even inspiring.
And that's the thing. And I'm like, I'm going to be 52 in 2 months.
So we are close in age.
And I'm like, I am better now, physically, mentally, spiritually, than I've ever been.
That's
Right.
awesome.
And
you're not perfect.
no,
Nobody is perfect.
my gosh,
But I mean, that's what people think. I think is,
no.
I mean, I know that's kind of like my feel of people who are just really involved in church and whatever, and they're
No.
just the perfect people.
I
but
screw,
they're not.
I
Like, it's,
screw up.
Amen.
Like on a daily basis, I say things that I shouldn't say.
Somebody scared me in my office the other day, and I had to repent right away because I was like, I didn't have glasses on. I came out of the bathroom. She was sitting on my couch and goes, "Hello," and I went, "Oh, beep!" And I screamed it at my
she
work.
said the word.
I know, and I was like, "Oh, out of the mouth the heart speaketh," and I was like, "That was terrible. I got to replace that with something." So it was bad, but she scared me to death, and what I said, I almost did.
Yeah.
So it was bad. It
Good
was
thing I went to the bathroom.
yeah, good thing I already went. Yeah,
I used to cuss like a sailor.
yeah.
I did. And so every once in a while now, I mean, the words will pop out, and I'm like, sorry.
Well, yeah, because nobody is,
Nobody's
you know, we tried to teach my cousin that Pinocchio was a bad word, so every now and then I try to go back to that and go, "Oh, Pinocchio," you know.
Yeah.
But
Sugar.
It doesn't feel the same. It
I
doesn't
know. There's
release the
something
tension.
about there's something about that.
So we got to find some godly curse words.
Yeah, but
Malarkey.
but it's just the things happen, you know, and I'm just. We're all a work in progress.
Absolutely. I need a tattoo for that.
Yeah, every single day. And when you said invest in yourself, I have, you know, and that is one thing that I always tell people. It's like, it's an investment in you.
Absolutely.
You are your best investment.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can't tell you probably the thousands of dollars that I've spent in my different coaching and things like that. And that's not to say like, ooh, I did this, but I wouldn't be where I'm at today without doing the things that I've done.
Yeah, growing, willing to grow.
And
Willing to do.
continuing to grow. And every day, it's like, okay, you know, how can I take a little step forward? And like I said, with me being where I'm at now, never, ever in a million years, if somebody would have told me that I'm at where I'm at now, I would have rolled my eyes, which my husband gets so annoyed at me.
Yeah.
Because my face tells
Shows
it all.
all.
My eyes. He's
Poor
like, yeah,
Dion.
I know. I try. I'm like, Lord, please help me not roll my eyes. So, but, you know, doing those things is if somebody would have told me that, okay, this is where you're going to be
Right.
and you're going to have this relationship with the Lord and I'm like, no.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But when I searched, like I felt empty inside. I felt broken because at the time, like I felt broken. So I was searching like for different things that would help fulfill me.
Right.
And make me happy.
Mhm.
Like, oh my gosh, if I buy this, if I have that, if I'm excelling in my career, all these different things. I'm like, and then I would like reach certain points and I'd still have that emptiness, that brokenness. And, you know, when I started working on myself because I kept researching and it was like, you got to work on your inside, you know, you got to, you know, how you speak. And this is before I had my relationship with the Lord. So I was in outside sales, so when I was in my car, I would listen to, you know, different things that were positive.
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, but I fell in, what happened though, at one point, I did fall into a period of toxic positivity. And that is a real thing, where I was at one point, and I so badly wanted to jump into this, you know, be a better person and have a positive mindset, that it wasn't, I sugar-coated everything.
See, and I think that's lies. I can't do that. There's a difference between being kosher with people and just being fake.
But I was trying so hard to improve
I'm not
myself.
digging on you.
Yeah, no.
Way to go, Rachel. No, that wasn't a dig on you. Like I'm I'm processing. When you say things, I'm processing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes the words come out from the process. I'm like, back up. So
but this is where live is good.
Yeah.
You know, because it is nice to hear that.
Right.
Those just come out.
Well, and so when you talk about toxic positivity, is that like Helen on Bridesmaids? It goes like, you do.
It's more like if something is going on in your life or whatever, it's like, no, it's all good. And this, what can I find positive? Which is not a bad thing.
Right.
But not allowing to just even allow other people to feel their feelings.
Right.
It was like, no, push those down.
You cannot express
You
those.
know, you're supposed to be happy and
Right.
have all these positive quotes and everything else. So I kind of went into that area of toxic positivity a little bit. But now it's like, no, we need to feel our feelings. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. And, you know, and searching for that, you know, feeling emptiness inside and wanting to fill it. And so then when I was invited to a women's event at a church, I was like, no, church, no. On a Friday night, heck no. I'm like, that's my unwind, have wine. No.
God made me allergic to wine.
That was not my problem. And so, but it was that gut feeling of, you need to go. And I'm like, no, I don't. And even when I told Dion, I was like, okay, so I'm going to go to this thing. And he's like, are you?
You are?
Yeah, he's like, okay. And I know he's got to be thinking stuff in his head, but he's just like, lets it go. And so when I went that night, though, and I couldn't tell you who was speaking what, because I was just like looking around. I'm like, all these people, and people got their hands up, and what is going on here? And then my friend that I was with at the end, she's like, I'm going to go get prayed for. Do you want to go get prayed for? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? No, but I felt rude, so I'm like, whatever. And so I go up there, and the lady's like, how can I pray for you? And literally, I start laughing. I'm like, I said, I have no idea. And I said, I should not even be here. I said, I do not have a relationship with God. I haven't been in a church in years. I said, I'm going to get struck by lightning. And she goes,
Step back.
She's like,
well, you just answered my question about 12 ways.
Oh, Lord.
no, you're not going to get struck by lightning, you know. And so she prayed for me, and I was like, yeah, okay. And went back to my seat, and then you know, they're getting ready to wrap things up, and they're praying, I think, praying us out, and I feel this like touch on my arm, and I turn, and it was that lady. Oh my gosh, what are you doing here? How'd you find me? You know, there's a lot of people here. She's like, can I pray for you again? And I'm like, all right, have at it. And she starts saying things to me that nobody knew, like how the emptiness I felt inside and how I laughed, but there was no joy. And I was in tears. What's going on? And so I left that night, and I remember sitting in the parking lot, and I'm calling my husband, and I'm like, you're never going to believe what happened, and da-da-da. And he's probably like, oh my gosh, what did they do? And I was like, I have to come back to church. I have to come back to church, you know? And he's just like, yeah, whatever, I don't know. Like, this is crazy. Like, did they brainwash you? What did they do? But that was that step. But it was like so, and this is what I try to remember with other people that, you know, they are maybe have held back from that relationship with the Lord, right, or have gone in a different direction. And I need to remember where I once was and not wanting to have anything to do with him. And I looked for everything else to fulfill this emptiness inside of me. And when really it was through him that I no longer feel that emptiness, and I feel joy. And what I've learned is that there's a difference between joy and happiness. Mm-hmm. That happiness is like, yeah, I'm going on a vacation, or, you know, something good happens in your life. But joy is something that you feel even in the midst of chaos. Right. That you can still have that joy, and you can still have that peace. And so that's still something that is so amazing to me. Granted, I don't always feel it. Of course not.
It's Jeff. Oh, we don't have big rats. Her husband came in the back door.
I mean, we kind of do. But...
yeah, well, you know, there's that.
But it's so different, though, to feel joy even when like life's just going on at a regular,
To me, like happiness is a temporary emotional thing, and joy is a state of being.
Yes.
You can be joyful in the midst of a nightmare.
Yeah. And I used to think also that if something was going on in my life that was chaotic, or somebody had said something that upset me or whatever, that when I was talking about it to somebody else, or if something was going on, like I had to show I was angry. I had to be like very high strung, because have you ever like seen those people? It's like chaos is going on and they just seem like so chill.
Yeah.
I just like look at them and think, are you dead inside? Like, I don't know how you do that.
And I used to think like, they don't care. How can you not be riled up about this?
Right.
How can you not be angry? And now I've learned that it's like, yeah, you can. You can just be calm, and you can be like, I'm trusting in the Lord to guide my steps. None of this is a surprise to Him. That He'll take care of it. And like, now, am I always perfect at this? Oh, no. But I do find at times it's like there's that joy inside of you, and you're like, okay, and you have that peace, and I don't have to be like flying off the handle.
Right. When you don't have that joy or peace and you're feeling a bit anxious, tell us about the EFT tapping. How do you use that?
The EFT tapping is, I said, there's 9 different points, and I've got several different videos. I think I've got some on YouTube and TikTok, and so there's 9 different points that you tap on. And how it's normally taught is you start out with your karate chop point. You're tapping here, and how it's taught is, okay, I'm dealing with this anxiety, these feelings, but I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And I struggled with that because I was like, but I don't deeply.
Just kidding, but okay, whatever.
I hate everything about me.
Right. And then you tap through the rest of the points, and you're talking about your feelings, how the anxiety is making you feel, things like that. When you start to have like a little bit of a release, then, back it up with some positive things. So I'm like, okay, and that has helped a lot of people. I'm not disputing that. So I use it in a couple of different ways. Me, I'm more like having a conversation with God, and I will just start going through the tapping points, and I'm like, Lord, I do not understand why this is going on. And whatever, if I'm feeling mad about something or depressed, and if I'm mad, if somebody says something to me that rubs me the wrong way, that upsets me, that they do something, I will, and of course, a lot of times you can't do it then.
Right.
So later on, I kind of like bookmark it in my head, like, I'm going to have to work through this. Go back, and I will tap through it, and I'll be like, I cannot believe that person said this how dare they? And
You can't just use that karate chop point on them.
Move
right through
that. But then going through the tapping points and feeling like a little bit of that release, and then, being like, okay, God, I know you've got this, and having that conversation with Him, and combining in some of, scripture or things like that help me just be like, okay, releasing it. And sometimes you may have to go through it a couple different times, because you may think like, I'm so much better, but then maybe that same thing happens again. And so it's an ongoing process. And like I said earlier, what happens is when we are holding in this anger, the frustration, anything like that, and you can use it for past experiences also, but what I have found, it's like really important to focus on like your life right now, whatever it is you're struggling with, and asking yourself, praying first, usually, unless you're in the heat of the moment and you can like get away and like you're really mad about something, and I just like tap through it. But for the most part, it's praying and asking Lord, like, okay, where are there areas in my life that I need to work on, that I need healing? What do you want me to see? And different things like that. So, but it is something that has helped me transform, because as we are then you know, working through and getting this stuff out. And like I said, it's layers of an onion, because you think like, man, I am so good. Because I remember when I first really dove into doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, you get into like this pink cloud moment. And we talk about that even when you first stop drinking. It's like you have this pink cloud, like,
Look at me.
everything is so good and I'm feeling good. And then all of a sudden, it's like something happens and you feel like you've taken 10 steps back. So that's why it's so important that it's ongoing work. And to be able to, you know, address those things. And if you have something that comes up from your past that's still bothering you, like I recently had to work on something that I didn't realize really was an issue for me. But when I tried to take my own life when I was younger, I drove my car into a telephone pole.
Oh.
Broke both my ankles. And I was like 17, 18 at the time. And I have always kind of struggled, but started going for therapy for my back, because my back's been bothering me. Come to find out, through a long process, I walk a little bit differently because of my ankles. And because one of them, I don't think healed quite right. So I walk a little bit different, which is causing problems with my lower back. And I was so frustrated when I first learned about this, because it started bringing up all these emotions.
It was a throwback.
Yeah, it was a throwback.
PTSD.
Yeah, it was like PTSD, because I did that.
Right.
I did it. It wasn't like anything, you know, happened to me. Like, I did it.
Right.
I was going down the road that I was like done. I was like, I didn't think things were going to get better. I just felt like I was in a dark tunnel. I felt like I would be better off. Other people would be better off. And so when I did that, and then now all these years later, and it was like, and I would talk about that finally because I covered it up for a long time. I said a deer ran out in front of me.
Absolutely.
Because I was like, oh, I'll be going into a mental hospital if I'm, you know. And so I covered it up many, many, many years. I've only really come out with it probably within the last 7 years.
So your parents didn't even know?
No, my mom, I think she did. Because when I came out publicly with it, like, it didn't faze her. Like, she knew. She knew. And but having him say, it's like, okay, you've been walking a certain way, and that's causing some issues, and you've been doing that for so many years. And I was mad. Like, when he was telling me this, I was feeling emotional. I was angry. And I went home, and I was just like, kind of like beating myself up over it, and started like just going through the process and saying like how I was feeling and just giving that over to God. But then I'm like, okay. And after I started like working through that, I'm like, but God, but I'm where I'm at today, and I can help make a difference in other people's lives because of what has happened.
Yep.
And I know that, I mean, it's being addressed now. So it's being addressed now. It's better than still 10, 20 years down the road.
Sure.
And then having to deal with it.
Right.
But so using the tapping is something I use pretty much every single day in some way, shape, or form. Even if you are, if you have like road rage, you're frustrated in traffic. Yeah, but yeah. And because even like, yeah. After, you know, the world shut down in 2020 and when everything kind of started to open back up, and going out in public wearing a mask just really gave me anxiety.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could not handle going to Walmart. I mean, that's when I really cut.
I can't handle
Because it made me, well, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just that extra, like I would be fine, and then I'd walk in, and I'm like, what in the world is happening? Like, I can't. So my anxiety,
So,
thinking about it right now, it's like making me.
So one day I had multiple stops I was doing, and then by the time, you know, I grocery store, Walmart, all these different things, and then by the time I was like ready to head home, my anxiety was through the roof. Like, to the point where I was like, am I going to have to go to the hospital? It was that extreme. Oh. And I'm like, okay, I got this. So it was probably about a 20-minute drive home. And I tapped here because this was like the easiest place as I was driving, because you can pick like one spot. And I just like my 15-minute ride home or whatever, I just tapped. and I just was breathing. And I'm like, and I didn't even say anything because a lot of times it's just the process. And I just tapped and I'm like, okay. Kept taking deep breaths. And by the time I got home, I'm like, I'm good.
Scientific question, because I'm a nerd like this.
Okay.
So
They may throw a question out there that I don't have the answer.
You're like, okay. You don't have the answer. There's no pressure here because we'll find the answer. It's okay. But so what makes the tapping work? Is it physiological? Is it phrenological? Is it neurological? Is it just the repetitive motion of doing something? But I know there's something significant about I think they call them meridians.
Yeah, we have meridians that run through our entire body.
Look at you, Jen.
And then we have places like where they're like connected. So that's where it's like acupuncture, but without the needles.
Okay.
And so what happens is that when we are, suppressing our emotions, have the anger, all these different things, and we're holding it in, then it's blocking the flow of energy in our body. And that's when it comes out in different forms. They say, headaches, depression, anxiety. And so by tapping on these different points, it's helping to release that and open it up. So it's almost like the energy can start flowing evenly through our body instead of staying just stuck.
Now I'm gonna say something, total transparency, because this is something that I've struggled with. I don't understand the difference sometimes and I totally believe in some Eastern medicines. I think some of them are entirely too connected to religions, but that's for a whole other conversation. But I sometimes don't understand the difference between like tapping, releasing energy, and opening your chakras and releasing energy, and different.
Right.
I don't understand, and not to say that doesn't work. I don't understand that either. But I get real skeevy about it because it's like, what part of that is anti-Christian?
New Age.
Yeah.
I get that.
So
I totally get that, and because I kind of went in, had the same feelings a little bit. Once I start going deeper with the Lord, I'm like, ooh, am I doing something that I shouldn't be doing? Whatever. And so I go down rabbit holes and start researching.
Terrible.
And you're going to have some people say, like, oh, no, I mean, anything that's more New Age, you shouldn't be doing that or whatever. And then you're going to have, I have found different blogs and things of different ministers that talk about EFT tapping and how they use it for, people within the church and things like that. So you're going to find both ways.
Yeah. Because, I went for a massage once and she blew sage over me and aligned my chakras with some hot stones on my back. Do you, boo. I'm going to lay here and relax.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me. I don't care if she was doing chants and special dancing behind me. I don't care what she was doing as long as she was giving me a massage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's between you and God, sis. I'm just here to relax. So I want to make sure that I know you're not going to be doing it if it's not right. You know what I'm saying? But just for the benefit of everyone, that's why I was wondering, is it something that's neurological because you can feel it? Is it, where does
it's really within the body, and God really has designed our bodies to be amazing things,
to heal ourselves.
To heal ourselves. And I am a firm believer that his healing takes place in different forms. And like for me, I've said I do not take anxiety medication, depression medication. I'm not against it.
Right.
I'm a firm believer that you need to have other things to go along with that to help with, our mental health, our physical health, different things like that. And so for me, with the EFT tapping, I truly believe that God guided me to what I was doing, but then he helped me refine it a little bit.
By using his word.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And to release, but knowing this is coming from him. Yes, I may be going through the process, and there may be something going on within my body, but it's all because of him.
Right. Well, we were talking about, when Sarah was here, we were talking about yoga. And some people can use yoga as stretching, and then some people get all tripped out and go with yoga as like a meditative thing. And so you can misuse anything.
You can misuse.
You can misuse lots of Christian things.
Yes.
There's a lot of people going to hell that are sitting in church on Sunday.
Right. And I've prayed to God about it, and I'm like, Lord, if there's a reason that I should not be doing this, that I should not be then I trust that you will guide me, that you will tell me, you will show me, whatever. And no, I mean, it really hasn't happened. And like I said, I've gone down the rabbit hole. And like you said, with yoga, there are some people like, that's wrong.
I've never heard that.
I've heard it. And I was raised in a Pentecostal church. And I think our church is still Pentecostal, but it's like, what do they say, non-denominational Pentecostal flair.
Right.
But I was raised in a Pentecostal church, and straight up, you didn't do things like, well, we didn't even go swimming with the opposite sex. That's how we were raised. Okay. So, you didn't do godly things like that or ungodly things like that. That was worldly. Mm-hmm. So when we went to youth camp, even when we were little kids and didn't even have any hormones, the boys went swimming and the girls went swimming, and I'm like, all the boys' stuff's still floating in the pool. I don't understand what the difference is, but here we are.
The cooties are still in the
Yeah, the cooties are still in the pool. But, my daughter, when she started Taekwondo, I had people go, you have to be really careful with that. And it's like, I just wanted to teach her how to beat up a guy in a back alley. Right. Like,
right.
Want her to protect herself.
Yeah. And I have seen people, and it seems like a lot lately. And I have seen more people posting like about, you shouldn't be doing that because, and people are like, I'm stretching, I'm exercising.
Right.
But, some of the moves that you're doing and things like that is like worshiping to a fake God or something. I'm like,
there's also people that tell me I shouldn't eat shrimp because it's a bottom feeder, and I can't eat pork because it's two-hoofed animal. And I'm just like, God came to free us from all of that.
And this is where
Christ died on the cross so that I can have a barbecue.
And honestly, if I was new in my walk with God, sometimes I still feel new. I'm still learning and growing. I would be scared. I would be like, oh my gosh, everything I'm doing is wrong. And I'm like, I don't know if I even want to go down that route. So I'm so glad that I really wasn't dealing with that when I started. But I'm like, it's about your relationship with the Lord. And if you are doing something that you shouldn't be doing, then He will guide you. Because even when I started my walk with Him, I was still doing some I didn't really know it was New Age. I didn't really put that label on it. Mm-hmm. But using sage and different things like that, I didn't know I was really doing anything that I shouldn't be doing.
Some people turn essential oils into a religion.
Oh, well, and then some people are saying you shouldn't use essential oils because that's more New Age. Right. And I'm like,
it gets very confusing.
It does.
That's why I asked the question.
It does.
Because I'm like, don't send us emails. We're not doing that.
Right. But I mean, but God, but God will guide us. Like I'm like, okay, maybe with the sage thing, I probably shouldn't actually be doing that, and I got rid of some of my like law of attraction books, and even though, and a little bit like the Bible is, the words we speak and things like that, but with the law of attraction, it's all about what I'm doing.
Right.
No, in the Bible, it's about, it's, the words I'm speaking, but it's all through Him.
Right.
I'm not making this happen.
That's the thing that we have to remember is, and I think we talked about this last week too, that the person that knows the Bible better than me is Satan. He knows every word.
Oh, he does.
And he twists and uses every word.
Yes.
So when people talk about karma, that's the law of sowing and reaping. Mm-hmm. That's the spiritual law of sowing and reaping. You don't have to believe that, but it is a thing. Mm-hmm. So, I don't have to believe in gravity, but if I jump off the top of this building, the law is going to show me that it is. So, if you think that there's such thing as karma, it's not. It's the law of sowing and reaping. If you think of law of attraction, I can attract these things if I manifest them through myself. I can't do anything. There is no power in me.
Exactly.
The power that is in me is God's power that He uses through me. Mm-hmm. So I'm not attracting anything, but you have to be very careful. We could totally go down a rabbit hole here about opening spiritual doors and all that kind of thing.
Right.
That'll be Rachael 2.0. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to open spiritual doors to things that we shouldn't be inviting into our lives. So,
well, and that's the thing with the EFT tapping. You know, I always specifically say it's EFT tapping for Christians because it's
EFT-C.
Yeah, because it's using God's word and his healing, because there are so many people out there that they're in church every Sunday, they're reading the Bible, but they can quote scripture like nobody's business.
Oh my gosh. So jealous.
Yeah, but they are not really feeling his word inside, and they are still harboring so much resentment or trauma and things like that it's holding them back from truth. They know God's word, and like for me, it's like I knew God, but it wasn't about having that true relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a process that it's like, okay, it's helping us open up and get this stuff out and giving it to him. Because everything I do, it's all about him and having the conversations with him. And I'm giving this over to you, Lord. And even though I may be, really sassy about it when I'm talking about it or whatever.
You know who I am.
You know who I am. You know my intentions. I'm giving it over to you. And then it's opening me up to allow, like when I read God's word now, it's a whole new experience. And making it to where I am doing the best that I can to live my life according to his word. Not perfect, and I'm still making a whole lot of mistakes along the way, but doing the best that I can.
If we stop making mistakes, we stop with our ability to grow.
Exactly.
So we don't even want to stop. I mean, we don't want to keep making mistakes, but we don't want to stop accepting the fact that we're going to make mistakes.
Right. And going through this process and being able to release it. And like I said, sometimes it's like when we're trying to forgive somebody or forgive ourselves, sometimes it's multiple times of over and over and over. But going through the process and being able to do that, and then knowing that he is helping me heal on the inside. And when that is happening, when there are things that used to really trigger you, and yeah, it may still bother you a little bit, but it's not like it was.
Right.
And you're like,
you learn to just,
Mm-hmm.
You learn to just be like,
because I remember I used to be the one to just come back with everything, and sometimes it still sneaks out. But for the most part, I think I've grown to, and you can probably testify to that, where I've just learned to just okay.
And it makes a difference of who we are around with too, because,
absolutely.
I have found, if we get around other people who are complaining and they're mad about this or mad about that, it is very easy, at least
absolutely,
to fall into that trap. Because, it's a lot easier to be negative and complain than to, God's word and things like that. But it is, so who we hang around with is so important. Are we hanging around people who are building us up, who we are learning from? We're not supposed to be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
We want to surround ourselves with others. And that was hard even for me. Sometimes God will push us out of that comfort zone, because even like for the first several years of going to church, I would go to church and I'd go home. I did nothing like outside of that. I didn't get really involved in anything, but that's how I started meeting, other people, and going to Celebrate Recovery has helped me connect with other people that I would have never connected with before, and women in my life that I have become very close to. And those things make a difference. I want to inspire, encourage, uplift others, but I also need people to do that for me too.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I sit here and, sitting and listen, like I feel like, and I've said it to Jen and Michelle both several times, that I don't feel like I'm quite where they are, or like quite where you are.
I'm in the tank, so
But
I don't know why you want to be here.
I know that this journey is my process. I mean, this is what's building me.
But we all learn from each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's what I can't, I'm not to the point, I know a lot of things about what the Bible says, but I can't be like, in Psalms 14 verse 4, this
Right.
is it, and I don't say it a lot of times word for word. And then when I hear other people able to do that, I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, you know what? I am not where I once was. I'm lucky. I actually know things that are said in the Bible.
Absolutely.
And I'm
So
learning.
you know you,
yeah.
right.
And I'm learning and I'm growing. And you know what? I may never get to that point.
Right.
Where I'm like that.
But you're still growing.
Yes. And God has a plan for me.
Right.
He has a plan
Absolutely.
for you. He has a plan for each one of us. And it's so different. And we have to be like, okay, Lord, what do you want from me?
Right.
And for me, like, I never thought that I would be so open about my struggles and my journey, putting myself out there about the alcohol and all of that stuff. But I'm like, I know that's part of what he wants me to do.
Right.
Because I want people to be like, you know what? Things can change. It's never too late.
Right.
And I want anything that I can do to give him the praise and the glory. And if somebody is out there and they see this and they're like feeling like they are broken and empty on the inside, then it's like there's hope.
Other people.
There's hope that things really can change, and
with
it's
that,
not
I wanna-
overnight.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you
you're
off.
right.
And with that, I want to ask for people who are watching that may want to, because I know you said you were a life coach.
Mhm.
So for people that may want to get in touch with you about life coaching, are they able to do that?
Yeah, they can. My Facebook page, it's under Rachael Lucas Clark, and shoot me a message. I'm on all social media, so they can shoot me a message. They can start following me, whatever.
And then on Amazon, you have some things.
I do. I have some journals that I have. This started. I think it kind of started as I wanted to see if I could do it.
Right.
Because I had no clue. I'm like, how do you do a journal? And so I kind of gave myself this challenge to figure it out, and it really gave me just a creative outlet. And I've got a couple journals for kids, but this one is probably the one that I really wanted to focus on, and it's an EFT tapping journal because I've put scripture in there. And it's because it's so important that we kind of document our process, because things will come up as we're tapping that maybe that time is not really the time and place to tap on it, or you need to save it for a later date. You make notes of it, and it's important too. And if I'm like in the spur of the moment and something I'm really angry about and I just need to start tapping to work through that, this doesn't necessarily pertain, but if you are taking some time to really work through an emotion, an issue that you're having, then it's important to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. If, 10, like my anxiety is so high right now and I need to work through this, then it's like, okay, I am like at a 9. So you want to be able to rate yourself as you are going through this, because it's like, okay, I was at a 9, but now I'm like at a 6. So I'm coming down. That's a good thing, because so often we don't realize the progress that we're making either, because we get in our own heads and it's like, okay, well, I didn't really notice the change. But if like I was at a 9, but now I'm like, okay, I'm like at a 6. And if you need to keep tapping to work through it, then, you hopefully can get down to a 1 or a 0. But it's important to track that. And that's why in this tapping journal, I'm like, okay, rate yourself. Where are you at on a scale from 1 to 10? And then being able to just work through it, because even after you've tapped, the Lord, the Holy Spirit may show you something that you just need to kind of work through a little bit more. And that may be through journaling, because journaling has been something that has helped me so much. And a lot of that too is having this conversation with God. And I mentioned earlier that when I tap in the mornings, I'll tap when I pray. And I say pray, but I'm all about, I literally talk to God like I'm talking to my very best friend, and have that conversation, because so many people get caught up with, I don't know what to say.
Right. And they think it has to be all flowery and,
Yes.
Holy Father, blah, blah.
Yes, and it doesn't.
No.
And so I will sit there and I will tap as I'm doing it and just have a conversation with him, because that's all he wants. He wants the best for us. He wants us to heal, but we have got to be open with him and be like, this is what is going on in my life. And I need you, and I can't do this on my own. And then take the steps that he is guiding us to take. And it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be like, I am not prepared for that. I don't know about this, but that's what he wants. He wants us to trust in him.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I trust in you, and I trust that you will guide me. I mean, when I first started doing short form video and all these different things, I'm like, oh my gosh, what are people going to say? This is just people are going to make fun of me. And I'm like, you know what?
Who cares?
You're not doing it for those people.
And that's
Right. Well,
they're not your people.
they're not my people. And I've had to realize that too, is that a lot of people that reach out to me are people that I have never met before. When I start sharing about my journey of being alcohol free and stuff, the people that will reach out to me is really amazing. And I'm like, I have no idea who you are, but thank you.
Yeah.
And that people are going through the same struggles, because it's so often people like, oh my gosh, they struggled with alcohol. They were probably in the bars all the time. They were passing out. They were blackout drunk, all these different things. No, alcohol was just my coping mechanism. I was getting up. I was very successful in my career. I was, going to work every single day. But yet, there was that stronghold in my life.
And people don't realize, a lot of people get real judgy about alcohol, but they don't think anything about taking their pill.
Yeah.
And they don't think anything about overeating, like the whole gluttony business. I go home stressed and I'm going to eat half a peach pie.
Right.
They don't think anything about listening to what literally is ungodly music to relax. So we out not cast stones, us in glass houses.
Yes.
So, so tell us about your other journals. And if there's anything else you were wanting to share.
So we got through the first question. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are. We have 9 more.
Was there anything that I didn't cover?
No, I think it pretty much will. I think it really, and we're already over an hour.
Oh my gosh.
So I think it's...
Time flies when we're in here.
Well, it really does. I didn't, wow. Okay.
But that's good.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The thing is, I just pray. I'm like, Lord, if somebody's watching it, even if they watch
a part of it,
hopefully that's the part that they needed to hear.
Yep.
And so the journals, I have EFT. I have some for kids, because I think that is so important.
I want to color in that.
Yeah.
Kids,
yeah.
Here, I'll hold them up while you're talking about them.
That.
And
this one. I think, and some of them have the same inside. Like, I think these are just like different covers a little bit.
This is I'm Grateful.
Yeah.
Gratitude journal.
And then this one's a prayer journal that I did, a Give It to God prayer journal. And just for, has scripture, a place for personal prayer for friends and family, something, gratitude. That's another thing that is so extremely important.
Yeah. That's one of the things I'm working on.
Is gratitude.
Hey, Miranda.
Is having that and being thankful even through the times of struggle, and being like, I am grateful that I can, because even with my back right now, and because a lot of it's the way I walk and stuff, it's like, I'm thankful I can walk.
Right.
I am thankful that I can get up every morning, that I have, hot water, that I have air conditioning, I have all these things. It's the little things that we're just like, okay, yeah, I'm so grateful. And that is so important that we need to focus on that.
That's awesome. So we're going to, sorry. Oh,
well, I'm not ready to quit yet because.
Okay, no, I was just going to say, where we will put the link to these.
And I think I already did.
Yes,
I think I posted it.
Oh, okay.
We'll definitely share it again. But this one's a habit tracker and my daily wellness. And so that's what I was going to, I suck at journaling. Like, I have good intentions of wanting to do it, but I struggle. And so I've been listening to some audibles lately because I can read, but I can't read and let it really soak in. So the audibles have really hit me lately. And so here I am all over the place. And so as you were talking earlier about One Day at a Time, The Power of Just One More. Have you listened to that book?
I think I have. Oh, I haven't. I haven't.
You
and
need
I-
to.
Yes.
Totally
Yes.
need to, because telling your story, and then it took me right back to what I listened there, and excellent book to listen to.
Yeah.
And
I'm not through the whole thing yet, but it is very
I
good.
think I have it on Audible, and I think I have it in the hardback too, because sometimes I like it, because I like to highlight.
Right,
I'm a highlighter
exactly.
and stuff
Right,
like
I
that,
am too.
so-
But then I forget what I highlighted sometimes. So, but the Audible, and so then I, going back and taking, kind of did a Cliff Note type thing, but I wrote it down, because writing it down, then whatever. But I don't know which book told me or whatever talked about journaling if you struggle with it. It's like, even if you just open up a page and one word.
Yeah.
Like, that is just part of it.
Mhm.
So you're going to see me carry this around everywhere I go now, because it's just got a little bit of everything with the books I've heard,
Mhm.
work ideas,
Yes.
focusing on my goal of retiring earlier than, just different things that I'm working on. And so, I don't know the point of my
Well, the
process
counselor
there.
that I went to, it's okay, I'll add to that while we
Okay, go ahead.
while we wait for that train to come back around.
It was journaling in general.
Yeah.
Wondering if she had struggles like starting it and stuff too. So that
Yeah, because I did too, and I was like, journaling, I got all this stuff in my head, I don't want to reinforce it and write all this crap down, and plus I'm like, I'm a court reporter, so I write on this machine and I type fast. Writing anything out longhand is just painful for me, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna do it. But then, yeah, and so just the process of writing it down, I thought, I can't do this, and I would work myself up. So I would have had a tack through the journal. But they said,
And you can do that.
can you?
Yes, you can throw it. Like, what is holding me back from doing this journaling and tap through it and be like, I hate
Oh, I
journaling.
remembered all of her spots. I'm trying to remember all of these.
See, that's the thing. I mean, does it matter what spot? Is it just
There are some different spots, but don't overthink it. I always tell people, I'm like, don't overthink it.
I mean, just whatever feels
There's-
natural?
Yeah, because this is like one of the spots. This is like probably my favorite spot here.
So
It's
like
like
your
you
bum?
feel the collarbone just go down just a little bit in here.
Like what
And
the
you
soft
just
spot right under the
yeah,
belly?
yes,
Okay.
and you and tap there.
Okay.
And so just going through the process, and a lot of times I always tell people when they're first starting out, don't even worry about saying anything. Just start tapping. Just tap on
the habit.
the habit of it.
On your little fontanelle?
Yeah,
Habit was my
here,
book I read.
that your eyebrow point here, you tap the side of the eye, under the nose, the chin area, like this area right here, and then for women here, it's about where your brow line is at,
Okay.
and then on the top of your head, and the side of your hand also. So that's what we were kind of talked about the other day. Like if you are in a meeting or something and you are feeling like stress, if you've got your hands on it, you can sit there and even tap,
good idea.
like this, and it's not going to be, if somebody sees you doing it, whatever,
Right.
even if they want to ask you about it. But
If they want to ask you about it, that's when you can go, it's to make this stronger.
so don't make me mad.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but yes. So if you're like struggling with the journaling, I mean, you can tap through that, and it may just help you at least release how you're feeling about it. And like she said, even if you just write down journaling sucks.
Exactly. Though. I mean, you're getting it out. Like
You're
you're
getting
getting
it
that
out.
thought out.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the same as even taking our phones and dictating to it.
Yes.
Like, how many times I've told you, like, if you feel the need to, whatever, like,
Yes.
type it out, send it to me.
Now, the
Like,
counselor
just
did tell me that it's
just-
so important not even to type it on the computer, but there's something
about
having,
saying it.
it's about about writing it with a pen on
Oh,
paper,
yeah.
that it activates your hippocampus. Now, I don't know what my hippocampus is doing in there if I'm not writing it, but apparently it really likes it if I write things with a pen. And it said, even if you write it so fast you can't even read your writing, it doesn't matter. There's something that triggers about getting it on paper.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just the fact
Well,
that...
it doesn't make a lick of sense to me, but I'm going to go with the people that are
But I mean,
professionals
it
on
does.
that.
Or, like I said, and it's still just to puke it out. I mean, like, if you're just talking to your phone, just to dictate it. Like, I feel
I
like
just talk
that's
to
just...
you. That helps me a lot.
Well,
and that's what friends are for.
Yeah, and
that's
the
what we
journaling
do.
helped
So,
me, like when I went through the 30 days of not drinking and getting very clear of why I was drinking, why I wanted to change. And just having that stuff in my head wasn't going to cut it.
Right.
I needed to write it out of what was going on, and then could go back and look at that when I was having struggles. I mean, I remember when we had to make a decision to like put one of our dogs down, and that was like the most horrific thing that I had been through, and I was like, I want to drink, I want this pain to go away, and I'm like, no, and going back and being like remembering why I was on my journey, and also when one other thing that helped me was thinking it through, like, okay, if I have this drink, how am I going to feel the next morning?
Right.
How am I going to feel taking that to God and be like, yeah,
and you still have to deal with your dog.
Yeah, you still have to deal with that stuff. But so often we are wanting to just that coping mechanism, just shove it off to the side instead of like, okay, you know, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, and it's okay to feel these feelings and just take it a day at a time.
Absolutely.
And you know, we're not perfect. We're all growing. We all make mistakes. And
we're going to continue. And that's probably been the hardest thing for me. And I mean, and I'm just learning. Just still learning. You know.
I don't think any of us are ever done learning. I feel like I'm always just starting learning. And I've been in church my whole entire life. And I feel like I'm still, because I said before on here, I don't remember which episode it was, but that God.
We don't even know what episode we're on right now.
This is today. Now we're on today's episode.
Exactly.
But on
August 17th.
Yeah, on one of those, I couldn't even told you that. One of those other days episodes, I talked about, I had a Bible teacher. I remember I was sitting over there, but that's all I remember about it. That I had a Bible teacher that talked about our lessons being a spiral staircase. And that we'll go through the same things and we go like, why have I been through this struggle before, God, and why am I having to go through it again? Let's don't forget that the Israelites walked around that mountain for 40 years and it was a 12-mile journey.
Right.
So why am I doing this again? But every time you walk past that same problem again, you're a little bit closer to him and a little bit higher on the rung. You keep learning just a little bit more. So you're not in the same place that you were the first time. So.
Definitely a perfect place to stop because an hour and a half.
I know.
I'm sorry, guys. We're like dying over there.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, you've got the most comfortable seat.
But she's got her feet on the floor. So 2 questions before we go.
Sure.
Who cut your hair?
Her name is Barb Smith from Marion. She actually works out of her home. So
She's taking new people.
Yes, I'm sure. Yes,
okay, so there you go.
So if anybody,
So get on her episode and, you know, if
you
she's
want
got
her information, I think she might be in this group. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, for Barb Smith, sure there's not only
shout out
one.
if you are.
Yeah, Barb, if you watch this, please put your information below because I'm looking for a hairdresser.
Yeah,
and number 2, what kind of foundation do you use? Were you going to ask too?
I'm sitting here just admiring the makeup. And now that I know that we're really close in age too, I'm like, so jealous.
Because she doesn't look all craggy and
I feel like I'm getting the wrinkles and things.
Well, I feel like when I put stuff on, I feel like all I've done is shellac myself with some kind of spackle, and it shows all of my creases and old bits, and you don't have old bits.
Yeah, I feel like I do. They're there. I feel like I do. But thank you though. But the cosmetics, the CC Plus, I think is what it is.
She has an exciting story.
She really does.
Yeah.
She does have an exciting
Maybe
story.
We'll get her on the show.
About her journey.
Yeah.
And so I use that. But it's also what you do also with just the taking care of your skin and things like that. And now as I'm like progressing
or
in
being able to put it on right.
Or putting it on at all.
Trust me, I am learning and things like that.
They say I should drink more water, but I'm pretty sure that water is the number 1 ingredient in Diet Coke. So I'm doing pretty good.
Water, sugar. Sugar is another thing that I know when I get off track a little bit, because since I don't drink, sometimes I do fall into like grabbing for sweets or something when I'm stressed. I mean, like I said, I'm still learning and growing, but if I get off track and start having like too much sugar, I can tell it in my skin.
The worst donut I ever had was amazing. I may have a problem. I'm going to tap through that. eating a donut.
Yeah, because he will go to Sam's. Like, Sam's is his favorite place, and he will bring home, like the little brownie bites.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that.
Dang, Dion.
I know, and I'm like,
You can make those real cute for Christmas. You put a little bit of this whipped cream on the top and then shove a strawberry, dethroned strawberry, and it looks like a little Santa head.
Yeah. Well, what he tells me, though, he's like, just...
Not only did we talk about this, but do it yourself.
Yes.
Santa Claus.
Hey, Christmas is going to be here before we know it. But he'll tell me, he's like, well, just because I bring it home doesn't mean you have to eat it.
That's true, but hello.
I mean, I just remember my babysitter when I was a little girl. She would fix me cereal with powdered milk, and it was the most disgusting thing I'd ever had in my entire life. And so I go, I'm not eating this. I was like 3, and she goes, there's starving children in China. And I got in trouble because I said, you just need to send this to them then because I'm not going to eat this. So I got in trouble.
And Michelle, you're missing out on high chews.
Yeah.
Jen brought flippin' high chews.
I love high chews.
Oh my gosh.
But you have to
never
open
even
it.
knew of what high chews were.
Can
Can you pop them open?
Yes.
I do
You
too.
karate chop them. But the thing about it is, how do people not know what these are? They're
I
like
did
the
not
candy
know.
for the Cardinals.
I did not know
I've
until
never
Michelle
heard
came to
that.
work with me.
Oh, look, I missed. You
Oh, I
checked
don't
that
do that.
one?
I
You
just-
already squeezed it.
I just pop it. Oh, now watch it.
I
just pop it just like this.
You just karate chop it and it comes right open.
Look at you.
But these are the sweet and sour ones. So on?
Sure, I'll take one with me.
I don't
Outside.
know what.
Karate chop
Yes,
it.
this one.
Mhm.
But
So
so
sometimes
thank you so much.
Yes,
No,
thank you very much.
thank you for having me.
Joining
I
and-
thoroughly enjoyed
Oh my gosh,
it.
it was
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Anytime I have the opportunity. But no, I really appreciate you reaching out to me
Oh,
and
absolutely.
giving me the
She's
opportunity.
an excellent PR
You
person.
know, I love what you I love what you're doing and getting allowing people to share their stories because there are so many people out there that are struggling and they need to hear that
Absolutely.
that things
It's
can
okay.
change. It's okay. It is okay, and it's okay to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah.
Also, because there is a stigma that it's like I got to do this on my own, or what are people going to think? And no, it is okay to reach out and say like I'm struggling and I
Right.
need help.
And we would talk to you about that, but we're eating these hot
Yeah, and that's
So,
and we've already been on an hour and a half.
actually,
So
Yeah, thank you very
and
much.
I'm going to just throw in there, invest in yourself.
yes,
Like, that is definitely my new slogan, I think, is
Yeah.
invest in yourself.
it's the best investment I
It really
have
is.
ever made, and it was probably the hardest investment that I
Mhm.
started out making because.
So, look where you at.
Yeah, I remember like the
You're
first,
all talking.
the first coaching thing that I remember I invested in was like $300. I'm like,
What?
I mean, I dropped $300 on alcohol, but
For a purse.
or whatever clothes. But I'm like, oh, what am I going to get out of this?
Right.
You
And
know?
that's what makes me nervous, too, is
Yeah.
doing that.
And there's
taking that risk.
And there are I will admit, there are some things that I went through that at the time I'm like, I don't really know if I got anything from that.
Right.
But it was later on down the road
That it hit you.
that it was like, yeah, I remember when this. So it kind of like, it may not be like this life-changing thing right then, but then down the road you're going to be like,
That's where we're at right now. Because I think about my life over time, and I'm like you. I
Yeah.
would have never thought that I would be doing something like this.
and I love that you just grabbed the bull by the
We
horns
just
and you like
go
did
with
it.
it.
Yeah.
We're
Not
crazy.
only did she grab the bull by the horns, but she grabbed the bull by the horns, flipped over those horns, got on top of that sucker, and rode it.
Well, and what I love too, like this is dedication.
Oh, yeah.
You have other things that you could be doing with your Saturday
Absolutely.
morning,
Absolutely.
but you are committed to being here
And I love it.
and doing this, and I absolutely love it. I love
Thank
it.
you very
Well,
much.
I have a feeling you'll be coming back because we'll make you.
Yeah. That's right.
We're not going to ask you. We're just going to
Yeah,
make
you know,
We're just gonna
I
pencil you in.
yes, I would love that. I really enjoyed my time with you ladies and just being able to talk about this. And I said, hopefully, somebody is watching that they may have
Absolutely.
heard something that kind of
Guaranteed.
spurs them like, oh yeah.
And if they happen to know a producer, have your people call our people.
Yeah. If you know somebody that wants to take this like nationwide or
Yeah,
whatever,
absolutely.
you know.
Yeah, we'd love to do that.
Totally.
It's one thing
Sarah, just bring all sorts of people.
That's what I love
Absolutely.
about
Already talked
that's
to.
the power of social media, though, because
Absolutely.
you never know who's
Who's
going to
watching.
be watching.
Yeah.
Yep. And just even like, I know
Steve Falcone.
Yeah. I know we don't know each other personally, but you've seen my story by posting, and it's like, oh,
Yeah, I thought you totally knew her.
No,
So
well,
we
we
never-
know each other
But
through church,
not-
but not personal, not
Right.
personally.
But I mean, I thought you did, and that's like, oh, I've got this person. So I
Yeah.
had no idea. So
Well, Mary Kay taught me years ago, just do the cold calls. And if they don't want to be with you right now, you just spray yourself with glitter and go, bless their hearts, they don't know what they're missing. And you move on to the next one.
I love that spray.
Very-
yourself with
yeah.
glitter.
Because they said you can never be in a bad mood when you spray yourself with glitter, so you just go, bless their hearts. Zip, take them off the list and call the next person. But you were the
That's
first
your
call.
hashtag. Spray yourself with glitter.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
thought it was
We need
bless
to
your
write that
heart.
down.
Yeah.
that too. So
But thank you so much.
Yes,
This is
absolutely.
an absolute joy.
I've loved it. Thank you very
absolutely.
much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, next weekend, don't forget, we are at the Patch. I don't know if we're doing on location
we
or
haven't
if
even talked
Sam's
about
coming
that.
here. I just handle things a week at a time.
Pretty much we'll find out the day before.
Yeah,
'Cause That's how
exactly.
we roll.
So, Samantha, if you watch this, reach out to me. I'm going to be reaching out to you anyway. But let us know if you want us to come to the Patch or if you want to come here. She may want to leave her kids at home and come here.
Exactly.
So we don't know what she wants to do.
Have some grown up time.
Yes, but we're going to talk to Samantha Dahmer next weekend with the Patch in Pittsburgh. And until then,
And I think after that, I'm looking to have Angie Watts just to. I scared Dominique for just a second.
yeah. Don't say her name.
Oh, sorry. Not her. But Angie Watts, who is with Cornerstone and the women's conference
The
is
Engaged
coming up.
Women's Conference.
She wants to. I talked to her, and she would like to come on and talk about that.
Awesome.
So we can
Okay.
get that set up too. But
Okay, cool.
anyways, thank you guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you again, Rachel,
Thank you.
for joining us. And bye-bye.
That's it.